awesome. I think I could see you being awesome in social engineering, like breaking into places and like, planting like USB devices.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Like with, oh, look at this shiny USB. And then I'd be like going into the office like, oh, and a USB, I'll take that. Isn't that cool?
Hey, welcome to the show. Today I'm here with Abi Travers. Abi's another young, exceptional engineer I've had the pleasure of working with in the past. We're going to talk about some of her exciting career moves, how she deals with her dyslexia and ADHD, some of the challenges that she still faces even today as a woman in our industry, and some of the amazing advice she has for us. Thank you very much for being here.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Bit bored with the whole lockdown thing, but by that, fine.
Give me a brief run through of your life and your career up to now, because you've had a pretty interesting life. I mean, you're pretty young. You've lived and worked abroad as well as here in the UK.
I did do a grad scheme in the UK, like right at the beginning of my career, and I realised I wanted to work in tech then when I was there, and I looked online and it looked like Vietnam had quite a good tech scene. I mean, it was kind of random. I just got back from Myanmar, and I'd been to Thailand a lot and like a lot of that region, but I'd never been to Vietnam. And I was young, so why not? Yeah, I just went. Then I moved to Indonesia doing growth marketing. I realised that I do like more the technical side of things.
It's a wild career. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's very brave of you to make all these moves, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really see it as brave at all. Because I don't really. I mean, it doesn't scare me. So I think for something to be brave, you've got to be scared by it, right?
There's some extra challenges in your life that sort of might get in the way of learning to code, or getting a good start early in your career.
Yeah, it might also explain why I didn't really think any of that stuff was brave. So I have ADHD and dyslexia, and I think with ADHD, I think it's to do with the fact that you don't see it as risky as much as other people, or you don't really think things through as much, and you act quite quickly. So it's, like I was saying, you don't have that time to worry about it before acting. Well, I didn't with those things. But yeah, so I've had those. I'm only just properly looking into my diagnosis, but I got it when I was 18, and realising that some of the weird things I do are actually coping mechanisms that I've put in place to kind of combat it. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of see things about it and be like, that's why I do that. That's interesting.
Because I mean, I always remembered you as really motivated and really happy and eager to get stuck into everything, and with loads of energy, and sort of just like this giant bouncing bread ball that would never stop. So do you think some of that comes from like your ADHD and some of the coping mechanisms you put in place?
100%. I read a good, like I said, I've only just been looking into all this stuff, and I heard a good explanation of someone being like, it's like being stuck with a ton of rocket fuel every day, and you just have all this energy and you just kind of have to get it out. That's why I'm so fanatic about exercising every single morning, having a standing desk, kind of to get that physical energy out the way, and to be able to focus on my mental energy for working. But yeah, I think it's like you have a lot of energy.
And I mean, how open are you about this with people? Because I mean, in the past there was a great stigma attached to things like this. I'm really happy that these days there isn't.
I would kind of dispute the fact that there isn't. But first off, I wasn't really open with myself about it. Again, I don't know if I was like blocking it out or just I forgot about it. I know that sounds very strange to say, but when you grow up with something, I mean, I've never known any different. So the fact that I had to exercise so much and had so much energy, I just thought that was me. I didn't realize that it was this thing that I had diagnosed when I was 18. In terms of stigma, I read like a fact that managers, if they know you're like, I think it was like 40% of managers would actively not hire someone with neurodiverse kind of disabilities, and still aren't happy about that kind of stuff. And that's why I think you see a lot of people with ADHD being like business owners and entrepreneurs. So a lot of kind of famous entrepreneurs have ADHD, for example. So I think because of the way traditional work is, a lot of them go out on their own. Successful ones, obviously, you also have like a broad range.
So, I mean, you've already covered some of the ways that you sort of cope or get around or, stay productive. To anyone else listening who might be, following in your footsteps in a similar position, is there anything else you could recommend to them?
I think what's really important is having a lot of structure and rules kind of in place. So trying to get up at the same time, for example, I get up at the same time I work out before work every day. It's all the same. So there's never like, if I'm quite a late person, I can be late, but if you structure it so you're exactly the same every day, especially working from home, you're kind of really able to do that. That really helps. And yeah, having a lot of kind of rules almost in place and a lot of structure in place for yourself. So, and then also, I don't remember things. I lose everything. Try and find someone who doesn't lose everything for you and just entrust them uh, to be good with certain things. But yeah, I think in terms of work, also, it's, I think, really, really important to get outside. So even if you are doing that kind of workout, still try and get outside and get the daylight. And also, again, just enough sleep, because like sleep deprivation makes it way worse. And again, like those have actually been things that lockdown's been really great for, because there's plenty of time to sleep. I can be a lot of, I can really structure my day myself, and it can be the same. There's not that like variable of how do I get into work or trying to, having to assess that time into there. But yeah, I think there's definitely been positives for people like me with this side.
So you mentioned that there's still a stigma, and I wanted to ask, have you ever felt discriminated directly or indirectly against?
I feel like this one's really hard. I mean, especially because I've not been open with it. So then no one's been like, no, you've got ADHD, goodbye. I think sometimes the way like corporates and the way the working world is set up isn't great for people with ADHD. It's hard though. I think everyone faces levels of discrimination, and people discriminate without knowing a lot. I think it's a really hard one, and everyone has things they have strengths and weaknesses, right? And a lot of the time, in terms of work, most people want to try and work with other people, but it takes a really long time to figure out how do you work well with like these other people, what are their strengths and their weaknesses, and like things just take time. And I think everyone to that level feels some kind of discrimination, because they're just like, well, this just isn't my strength. I just can't do this thing you're asking me to do, for example.
I mean, to what extent do you think your sort of positivity sort of plays into it? Because you've always been a very positive, optimistic, helpful, kind of person. Do you think that that's kind of keeping your head above water?
Um, I think maybe what helps me a bit more is like my interest in people. So I really love like people, and kind of trying to see other people's strengths and weaknesses. So, and trying to understand other people. So maybe if you kind of face discrimination, like I never think it's about me. I always think it's about them. So if I'm being discriminated, for example, or just something is happening that's making me upset, especially when it comes to work, maybe less so outside of work. But I kind of understand that it's probably about that person, not about me. And these are like what they value, or I don't know. It's more like I find it more useful to try and understand it in terms of that person. So, oh, they're like a really structured person, and they just don't understand like a non-structured person. I think maybe it helped that my mum is a very structured person and very the opposite of me. So I've kind of grown up trying to see someone who's very opposite of me, and kind of understand that point of view.
On the topic of discrimination, you're a woman. Have you ever felt in your work life discriminated against because you're a woman?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have? We don't have to
Both.
talk about this.
I mean, I can, outside of tech, yeah, I've had it outwardly said to me, like in my grad scheme job, that, I mean, to be a woman and to be promoted, you have to be twice as good as men. Like I've had that said to me by a manager. Inside of tech, yeah, I think it's the subtle stuff. More in terms of a lot of it's structural and, you know, it's been in place for a while, and it's the way that maybe UK society works. And that's, you know, it's kind of people bring society in. But something I would say is like, it definitely changes with leadership. So really great leadership really stops that. I think I've noticed different leadership, and it really is the people at the top. I know, like, as little as, you know, you can have, you know, little cultures within your teams and blah blah blah, but I really think it's the culture of the people at the top that kind of set that level of stuff, like what's acceptable, basically. So it can be changed, and I definitely think we're moving forward, but there's definitely stuff that women face, and it's subtle. It's not like we're going to pay you less because you're a woman. It'll be like, oh, you didn't ask, so we're not going to pay you. And it's like, but women are less likely to talk about themselves like that. You know, it's things like that.
Okay, thank you. That's really enlightening, and I am really sorry to hear that. And I think, you know, many companies do recognize, you know, the need to have more women in leadership roles and senior roles, and I think that hopefully that'll make a big change.
Definitely. Where I'm working right now, it's 2 female founders, and it's amazing. Like, I haven't felt any discrimination, really. So yeah,
That's great to hear.
think it definitely makes a difference. But it doesn't have to be women. It can be like great men as well. And also women can discriminate as well. Like I don't necessarily think it is just to do with the gender. It's themselves kind of thing.
I guess people are just not perfect. Full stop.
Exactly. And maybe it's like being aware of your own non-perfect sides.
So you've mentioned that remote working has worked really well for you. Have there been any challenges at all, other than, I guess, you look a bit bored?
Yeah. I'd say, like, it's great and it's terrible. It is like extremes, right? So it's the best thing and it's also the worst thing. I really love people. I really miss people. I like having a separate space where I can get rid of kind of other distractions. Like I liked the routine of going into an office, for example. But yeah, I miss people. And I think there are some learning things lost. You know, the little conversations that you could have at lunch, or you'd have getting coffee, and you're like, oh, hang on, tell me a bit more about that. You miss those kind of things.
So what's exciting you about the future?
I like how we're having more conversations about how should technology be used kind of ethically. And, you know, we're looking at, with machine learning, for example, we are thinking a bit more like ethically about that. I think the conversations with technology and, you know, with, for example, with Facebook and just blindly using the algorithms, the fact that we're moving towards like, you just can't do that. And like, it does have real world consequences. policymakers and all that, they're having to look at tech, and they can't ignore it anymore. It's not like, I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and it was saying that like politicians are thinking about kind of Facebook and social media, and they're using that as their main kind of ways of campaigning. And just to think, I don't know, imagine 10 years ago, someone's like, oh, what's this thing called Facebook? And then they're like, 10 years down the line, this is going to be the main thing politicians are bothered about when they're trying to get votes or things like that. You're like, no, absolutely not. And then I love that more people are coming in. So, we're getting more ideas and diverse ideas coming in to shape that landscape. I just love how things are just constantly improving and getting better. I'm excited to see kind of the future of everything.
And finally, can you tell me the joke of the show?
Yeah. I thought I'd use a developer one. I'm sorry if this offends anyone. Why do front-end developers sit alone at lunch?
I don't know. Why do front-end developers sit alone at lunch?
Because they don't know how to join tables.
Oh, nice one, Abi. Thank you very much. And that's all, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in. For more info, for questions, comments, or feedback, please head on over to aheadintech.com, and don't forget to subscribe.